April 10th, 2020 today. I'm Drutter, and it's the 26th day of my lockdown diary. And I'm going to do this in point form again because so much is happening right now. I normally talk about things that are going on here for me in my town, in my province, BC, and in my country, Canada, and then kind of around the world, just the bigger stuff that I noticed and wanted to mention, and sort of a focus on my area and me and how it's affecting me. Starting with millions here in Canada on the verge of bankruptcy. Literally, between 1 and 2 million people are just barely able to put food in mouth at this point, and that changes every day. So, that situation is a dire one here in Canada, and probably in a lot of places too around the world. And this is kind of a taste of what a lot of the world has dealt with on and off, or more on than not, for a lot of people for a long time. And this is just something that Canada hasn't had to deal with very much lately, is extreme poverty or even just supply chain breakdowns to the point where even if you have money you can't get food. This is new. And the unemployment rate here has jumped now a new not a new record, but a recent record of 7.8%, and that's a large jump. More than a million more people went on to unemployment this last month, and that's expected to be at least another million next time it's calculated. And in the US, they did another $2.3 trillion. That's on top of the other 2.5 trillion, the other 2 trillion, the other 1 trillion, the other 2.5 trillion, the other 2.2 trillion, and I think there was some more in there that I can't quite remember. Somewhere around 10 to 12 trillion created from nothing, essentially, an inflation of the monetary supply to create money to give to banks and to give to corporations. For the most part, there's a token amount going to the people, but it's not going to cover the inflation that will eventually hit the economy because of these tens of trillions of dollars being created. This is absolutely unprecedented, and this is something that 2008, 2009 could only just aspire to be. This is the biggest financial event in history. These numbers are unimaginable to humans. We can't even fathom what a billion is, let alone what a trillion is. And we're running through the trillions just like they're nothing now. And it's going to be quadrillion soon. So maybe I'll post down below my video from a few years ago, say hello to quadrillion. I think it's about 10 years old now. I said that's going to be a number you're going to have to start hearing in the financial world before too long. And yeah, it does look like that's coming next. And the World Health Organization now saying that, recommending to countries, I don't know why they can recommend and why countries should have to listen to them, but it looks like it's going to be happening, recommending that countries isolate and separate family members from each other by force if necessary. So yes, they're saying that the government should come into people's homes, find out who's infected, who's not, take certain people away, or force, I don't know how they're going to enforce that exactly. Prison? Quarantine centers? Some more news from Canada here now. They are saying 4,400 will die. That's an interesting number, 4,400. But that was going to be 350,000 before social isolation and all these measures. So they're saying we're going to be able to keep it down to 4,400. I'm not really sure about all these things, but this is what the government is telling the people is their opinion. I.e., it's what they want us to know, what they want us to hear, and what they want us to think. So yeah, that 4,400. We are 13% of the way there now by current last calculation, 13% of that. So I thought we were closer to about 5 to 10% of the way through. No, at least now that's showing that we're at least 10 to 15% of the way through, at least in terms of deaths, which is kind of the lagging indicator anyway. Deaths are kind of the last thing to happen, the last number to happen, except for maybe complete recoveries, I guess. Yeah, they're saying here, you must stay inside. You must stay inside. And the government actually came out, I'm not sure who exactly said this, doesn't really matter. Some member of the government said, you deserve to live under a dictatorship if you are traveling and out and about right now. What? Why would you wish that on anyone? Why would you say? Why would you even bring that up? Why would you say? Why would you tell your constituents, your people that you're supposed to be serving, that are paying your wages and paying for your family to eat? Why would you tell them you deserve to live under a dictatorship if you're moving around right now? If you're traveling around within the province right now? What? Wow. And they're saying stay in cities. You must stay in cities. Don't go out to the smaller towns. They're calling people raiders. They're saying that people are going out. The smaller towns are complaining, saying, well, our shelves are empty. We had enough for our people, but now your people from the city have come out and raided us. What? That sounds like Mad Max almost. So yeah, stay inside, stay in the cities. Don't move out to smaller areas. Don't go to the hills, basically. Don't head for the hills. Stay where we can give you services, they say, where we can help you. You got to stay in cities. But isn't that just packing people in closer together? All these things they do are about packing people in closer together. We got to shut down all the trains, all the buses, so there's only one running here and there, and everyone's got to use the same one. All this kind of stuff. All these policies seem to be about packing people in together. Less hours for the grocery store. Everyone's got to go between 10 and 5 now instead of 7 and 7 or whatever. Yeah, they're shaming people for traveling on roads at all. They're taking pictures of people who are on the highway and saying, look at all these cars on the highway, and look at all these people, these bad people that are trying to travel from one part of town to another or one part of the province to another. That doesn't necessarily mean that they're infected. And if they could be infected and not know it, right? That's so convenient, isn't it? So convenient. This is just getting more disturbing all the time, I think. And I heard from New Zealand that they are, and other countries, that they are banning all travel, roadblocks and everything, even just from one town to another. You're not moving around. There's police everywhere, putting up roadblocks. Great. This in the free world, supposedly. Trudeau invoked the Emergencies Act, which is the new name for martial law. They rename it every generation or so. It was the War Measures Act, I think, in his father's time. And now it's the Emergencies Act, and it's the first time it's ever been invoked. So he has invoked that. Now we are about to enter into martial law in Canada. Great! Sarcasm there. And what that means is total government control and a suspension of rights. And so that means that's a complete loss of democracy, or whatever you want to call Canada. It's a complete loss of sovereignty, a complete loss of personal liberties. And that's end game, basically. And that's what Canada's moving toward now. He says there is a week-long process to get it started. So he has started that week-long process. Now there's 4 or 5 or 6 days left, I'm not sure, somewhere in there left, and then we can go to martial law. And he's saying, no, I might not need to, though. I might not actually use it. I might just invoke it and then just back down, right? Maybe I'll just in quotes, use the Quarantine Act. Yeah, maybe I'll just use the Quarantine Act, which is, I'll have the RCMP go to people's homes in Canada and go and arrest people that aren't isolating properly or risking harm, infecting other family members or others in the community. And we'll take those people to prison or whatever for 6 months and give them $750,000 fine. But we might not have to go for full martial law, so that's good, right? What? Don't visit your family for Easter, he says, as a reminder. Don't you dare visit your family this long weekend. And lastly, I'm going to read a bit of a story I got from CBC News, the mainstream media here in Canada. A month ago, Miss Berlin Get started to feel unwell. The 33-year-old couldn't sleep, and her muscles ached. She alternated between sweats and chills, and she was racked by fatigue, headache, and cough, followed by 3 days of the runniest nose in the world, end quote. Though her friends thought she was suffering from seasonal allergies, Berlin Get knew it was more than that. Quote, it was not a cold, that's for sure. Seasonal allergies and colds aren't the same thing, but anyway. It wasn't a cold, she said. For 3 days, I could barely get out of bed. 2 weeks after the symptoms began, she wasn't feeling better. I was declining rapidly, hour by hour, she said. She called 811 and was told to go to emergency at Vancouver General. After complaining of chest pains and difficulty breathing, Berlin Get was sent for secondary screening. Listen to this part. A doctor diagnosed her with COVID-19, but she was never swabbed. Swabbed means tested. They never took a sample of her anything. They didn't sample her saliva, her throat, her nostrils, anything. No swab. She was diagnosed with it without being swabbed. Berlin Get, like her opinion matters, doesn't sound like a doctor, but anyway, Berlin Get says her symptoms were obvious. I'm a healthy adult with no underlying health concerns, she said. Quote, I would rather them use their time and resources on someone who needs it more. Well, why did you come to hospital then if you are happy just to be diagnosed without even being seen? You could have diagnosed yourself at home then. But anyway, she doesn't want them to waste their test on her, basically. Okay. Berlin Get was told that once she was admitted into an area limited to COVID-19 patients, family and friends wouldn't be able to come and visit, no matter how sick she was. So they decided to move her into a unit that is only for confirmed infected patients, without checking that she was infected. Wow. And she says, if you're going to die or get really ill, the last time you walked outside could be the last, and the last time you saw your family could be the last. What? Medical staff wearing personal protective equipment drew blood, took x-rays, and checked vitals. But Berlin Get only stayed in the unit a few hours. Her fever subsided, so she was sent home and told to return if she got worse. After a month, Berlin Get is feeling significantly better, but she's still experiencing fatigue and shortness of breath. She's concerned about long-term lung damage from the virus. She's also worried about interacting with others, even from a distance. Quote, there's no testing, and I don't know if I still have the virus. My fear is I'm still contagious and can get someone else sick. I will go for a walk out in the open, but not near anyone. I'm still not grocery shopping, and still not seeing friends or family. Nothing. It's still unclear how Berlin Get contracted COVID-19. She hadn't traveled recently, neither had anyone in her immediate social circle. And none of her friends were sick. Quote, I know a number of people who are sick and aren't talking about it with their friends or family or other people. They're scared that if they get seen outside going for a walk, you'll get treated like a kind of leper. BC Provincial Health Officer Dr. Bonnie Henry has said at her daily briefings recently that not all people with COVID-19 will be tested, including those with mild respiratory symptoms that can be managed at home. That was from CBC News today, and the link is below. The message, of course, is fear, fear, fear. Don't even see your own family, not even at a distance, and everyone will have it, and many already do. There's no need to test. Government will decide who is infected and who isn't, and what will be done with those who are. Some questions I had are, why did they put a patient with an undiagnosed respiratory infection into a unit with confirmed COVID-19 patients? What if their assumption wasn't correct? Now she is infected with COVID-19. Also, what about the compromised COVID-19 patients she was mixed with? One of the biggest causes of death is secondary respiratory infections, like bacterial infections, pneumonia. So if the assumption was wrong, not only did they infect her, but they may have doomed several of their patients on the unit. No doctor I have ever worked with would have made that decision. Saving one swab and one test and risking several lives is unconscionable. That story doesn't even seem real. And what's with the unnecessary talk about seeing the outdoors and family members for the last time? Come on. And why does it say she doesn't know where she could have picked up the virus, and then immediately quotes her saying she knows several people who are infected, but who are hiding it from others? The whole story stinks of social engineering. This whole crisis does. And let's just briefly talk about numbers now before I go, because I could just go on and on about that forever. Today there are 103,000 confirmed dead in the world, 575 confirmed in Canada, and 55 here in British Columbia. And I think I'm just going to leave it there for now. Thanks for listening. That was a lot to go through, I'm sorry, and there's going to be a lot tomorrow too, probably. Talk to you soon. Stay well.